People used to cover their mirrors after someone died. Back in the Victorian era, after someone died, they would immediately go to their house and cover their mirrors with black cloths. This is because they believed that if they walked past the mirror and saw their deceased loved one looking back at them, it meant they would die next. They also thought the spirit would be forever trapped inside the mirror and would never be able to find peace. There were also just a lot of superstitions around mirrors back in that time. People thought that spirits could come through them. People thought mirrors brought bad luck. People thought that if you looked at yourself in the mirror, you would find the secret truth about yourself. But yeah, there are a lot of very creepy vintage photos of people covering their mirrors with black blankets or cloths. This was a banned episode of Peppa Pig. This episode was called Mr. Skinny Legs, and it came out in 2004. And depending on where you live, it was taken off the air immediately. This episode was supposed to teach its young viewers that while spiders may look scary, they can't really hurt you. At the beginning, Peppa is afraid of the spider, but by the end of the episode, she befriends the spider and invites him as a guest to her tea party. Now, I think the moral of this story is pretty great, but apparently people in Australia did not agree. Australia is home to some of the most venomous spiders in the world, like the redback spider, whose bites are intensely painful and have historically been linked with deaths. So this episode was unfortunately banned in Australia because they did not want kids trying to befriend spiders.
Warning, these are things that you do not want to know. Part 2. Right now, there are thousands of microscopic mites snuggling up on your body right now, and they're so small you can't do anything about it. So if you feel itchy right now, you know why. A lot of people tend to forget this, but spiders can also crawl on ceilings. So instead of looking at the floor for spiders, also make sure to look up because there could be one right above you right now. There's an island in Mexico that's full of hanging dolls from trees all over the island. The place is called Island of the Dolls.
This is why you should always pay attention to details. A woman was brushing her hair when she found a little bump at the back of her head, so she called her husband to have him check it out for her. He said it looks like a button. It's small, round, hairless, and flat at the top. He joked around it with her, asking, "What do you think would happen if I pressed it?" Then he did, and the woman instantly leaned up and gave him a kiss. Then the husband kept pressing it as a joke, but something went wrong. It seemed like he pressed it all too many times, and a cool numbness spread down the woman's neck, around her arms and her legs. Her eyes automatically shut and her vision went black. A while later, the woman woke up and learned that she had fainted. The husband kept apologizing with tears in his eyes as if it was all his fault. Eventually, they both went about their lives and tried to forget about this incident, but the woman just couldn't, because afterwards, she came across a photo of her family in the living room. It was a photo of her and her husband's wedding propped up on a ceramic urn. She looked closer at the photo of her own face. She's smiling as if she's the happiest girl in the world, but there's a small scar under her left eyebrow, a scar that she now didn't have. Do you style your hair the same way every day? Well, there's an urban legend about a woman who always wore her hair in a bun, but for her, this habit would lead to something terrifying. This woman loved wearing her hair in a bun, but she might have taken it a bit too far. She didn't want to style her hair differently or even take out her bun to clean her hair. Whenever she took a shower, she would just wear a shower cap to make sure the water didn't mess up her bun. At night, she would sleep with a towel around her hair so the bun didn't move. After a while, she had to put hairspray in it to mask the smell. Then her scalp started feeling itchy, so she would put more hairspray in it. Even when the itching got intense, she just applied more hairspray. But her husband finally found out about how bad the situation had gotten when he woke up one day and his wife was still asleep. He tried to wake her up, but she wouldn't move. She had died in the middle of the night. The husband called the police, fearing that something unusual might have happened. But when her body was examined, they finally took out her bun. Inside her hair, they found something terrifying. They found a huge spider had gotten into her hair, made a nest, and laid eggs. When the baby spiders hatched, they bit through her skull and ate her brain.
This is why you should always lock your doors. A junior in high school was home alone working on a paper while his parents were out to dinner. All night he sits with his back to his door, sitting at his desk with his noise-canceling headphones on. Around 11 o'clock he takes his headphones off at the same time his parents are returning to the house, and he hears his mom from downstairs yell, "Hey Adrian, what happened?" Confused, he runs downstairs and sees right away what she's looking at, muddy footprints all over the rug. He tells her, "I didn't leave my desk." And then they realize someone must have broken in. They look at the footprints and there's none leaving the house. They're worried someone's still in the house, so they run into the garage, terrified, call the police. Police arrive and they don't find anyone in the house, but they do make a chilling discovery upstairs. The police bring them to the kid's bedroom door, which had been left open all night, and they point to the message written on it in Sharpie. This is the actual transcript of what was written on his door, which means for nearly 2 hours, someone stood in this kid's doorway watching him.
Can you imagine being locked inside your house for your whole life? Caroline's aunt and uncle said she was so ugly that she had to be hidden from the world. If anyone saw her, she'd be taken to the church and burned at the stake. But things are not as they seem. One day, Caroline started asking questions. She wanted to know why the other kids could play outside, but she could only sit and look out from her bedroom window. This made her aunt and uncle very angry. They said, "Can't you see yourself? Don't you understand the sacrifices we've had to make to keep you hidden from the world?" She had been convinced that staying trapped was for her own good, but one day she decided to escape. She used the safety pin to unlock the door and left. However, soon after she made it out, two men wearing uniforms started shouting at her. She began running.
There is a creepy lost episode of Barney that a father swears he caught his kids watching. One day he was looking at the TV guide when he saw that it said a lost episode of Barney was going to air at 7 p.m. He asked his kids if they wanted to watch and they said yes. They all sat down to watch it and the theme song started playing, but something wasn't right about it. It almost sounded like the song was being whispered. The episode started as it usually did, the kids holding the Barney doll that suddenly comes to life. But when Barney started talking, he sounded slightly weird. It sounded like two people were talking at once. His normal voice and one that sounded darker and scarier. And suddenly he said,
"Hi kids, today I'm going to talk to you about death."
So one of the kids asked him,
"Barney, what's death?"
He then chuckled and said,
"This is..."
with his face suddenly turning angry, his teeth growing long, and then he eats the child. And then he proceeds to chase all the other children around, trying to eat them throughout the rest of the episode. And then at the very end of the episode, he sang the I Love You song as if nothing happened.
So I have this neighbor who I've never spoken one word to at all. Every time I drive by in my car or when I had only a bicycle, I would ride by and we would just wave towards each other. That's it. That was our whole communication. And today I decided to go get some coffee from the gas station and everything, and I drive by and I see his garage doors open, we wave at each other, and I go get my cup of coffee, and then I also get him a cup of coffee so I can finally meet this guy who I've just been waving to for the past year and a half. I pull into his driveway, and this older gentleman, this old man, got up, smile on his face, and I gave him a cup of coffee, and his daughter walks out, and she tells me that he actually has autism, and his favorite part of the day is when I go to work or I come home from work and we wave at each other. That is his favorite part of the day. That hit me right in the heart. That made me feel so good. So, just by a simple act of waving, I made somebody's day.
If you receive a creepy tea party invitation in your mailbox, throw it out right away and don't attend the party. There's a legend about this girl who received a strange invitation. It was sealed with wax, it looked super old, but it didn't say who it was from. It gave an address, a time, and a dress code. But the creepiest part about it is that at the very bottom of the invitation it said, "No +1s allowed, arrive unattended." Obviously her parents were really sketched out, and they told her not to go to this place and to throw out the invitation right away. But the next day, her parents went into her bedroom and she was nowhere to be seen. They saw the invitation lying open on her bed and they knew that she had gone. Now, after this, she was never seen again. And when her family went to the address the tea party was said to be, they arrived at an abandoned old building. It was then found out that multiple people had gone missing that month after receiving a strange tea party invitation.
That's why you should never knock on a stranger's door. Once there was a man trying to check into a hotel. The woman at the front desk gave him his key and told him none of the guests are allowed to go into the room across the hall. He agreed, but as he continued to stay in the hotel, he grew more and more curious about the room he wasn't supposed to go in. At one point, he even walked down the hall to that room and tried the door. It was locked. Then he bent down and looked through the keyhole. He saw that it was just the same as his hotel room. But in the corner of the room, there was a woman whose skin was extremely pale, almost a sickly white. Her back was to the wall, so the man didn't see what she looked like. He almost knocked on the door, but then just decided to leave her alone. The next day, he walked past the door again and decided to look into the keyhole. This time, there was no hotel room and no woman. It was all just red. He thought that this seemed really strange, so he went to the front desk and asked about the room. After insisting on an answer, the woman at the front desk told him, "A long time ago, a man killed his wife in that room, and her ghost is still there. But these ghosts are not what you might imagine. They're completely white all over, except for their eyes, which are red." If you're ever driving late at night, don't do what they did. 2 boys picked up a girl on the side of the road while they were on their way to a school dance. In the car, she kept saying that she was cold, so one of the boys gave her his jacket. But when the night ended and they were about to drop her off, the girl accidentally left with the jacket. So the boys said that they would just come back the next day to get it. But when they came back and knocked on her door, they discovered something that would make them question what is real and what isn't. An old woman opened the door and asked them who they were looking for. After talking to her for a while, it was revealed that the girl they found on the side of the road was her daughter. But the thing is, she had been dead for 12 years. She was killed in a car accident at the same street corner they first saw her. The old woman pointed to a cemetery down the road and said, "That's where we buried her." The boys didn't believe her at first. They'd spent the whole night with this girl, so they knew that she had to be real. But they went to the cemetery and saw the boy's jacket draped over a gravestone. And on the gravestone was the girl's name and the date of her death, exactly 12 years ago to the day.